You're listening to the Business Mike podcast. Amazing interviews with entrepreneurs and industry thought leaders.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Business Mike podcast. And joining me today is Amanda. Amanda, can you just tell the listeners and viewers a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Hi, Dodi. Thank you very much for this opportunity. My name is Amanda Akushie. I'm from Ghana, and I'm the founder of Nile Consult. So Nile Consult is a business transformation consultancy that leverages on customer experience, process reengineering, and digital marketing to drive business value for its clients. So that's, in brief, that's who I am.
Okay, and can you tell us about your journey into customer experience? Is this something you professionally started in, or did you start from elsewhere and find your way in the profession?
Okay, so I would say I didn't study customer experience in school for my undergrad. So my first degree, I read biochemistry, and then my second degree, I read marketing. But in between, after school, I have spent majority of my working period in the field of sales, marketing, and customer service. So that is where I've spent most of my working life for, so like say, between 10 to 12 years. So that was where I had that passion and that interest of customers. It was even customer service. But then as time went, I realized that no, there was something more than the customer service. Because I realized that, and I also worked in the engineering industry. So I realized that it was so easy that when customers have issues and you go back to the business to let your other colleagues know, it felt nobody was bothered because they were not having that face-to-face interaction with the client. But I realized there was a gap. It was much more than just customer service and everybody didn't care. That was when, I think during my master's, one of my research I had to do, then I came across what I have been looking for, which was CX. Then I developed that interest for CX and realized that, wow, CX is really a game changer. And that is where I had a turn to develop my interest in CX, practice it, and then later on left my daily 8 to 5 business to start my consultancy.
Right. And one of the challenges with CX is explaining it to people to appreciate how wide in scope it is. So as someone who does consultancy, what are some of the challenges or hurdles you have to overcome to explain and let your clients know that it's not just a matter of answering emails?
Yeah, that's very true. Even so, people, once you say CX, they still think, it's customer service, it's for that frontline person, it's for the receptionist, it's for the contact center team, it's for the customer service team. It's not for us, it doesn't belong to us. But that's where that perception is wrong. CX is basically everything we do in the business. It's that experience we want to give to the customer, how the customer feels, how we want the customer to feel whenever they come in contact with our brand. And it's about delivering on your brand promise. And everybody needs to come together to be able to accomplish that goal as a business. So it's not left to just the customer service team or the frontliner or the contact center person, but it's everybody from back end to front end, because the person who is having that face-to-face interaction with the customer depends on somebody to get the job done, depends on somebody to leave a positive experience for the client, depends on somebody to fulfill or be able to achieve the brand promise. So when that person feels that once I don't see the customer, I don't care about CS, that is where it starts. And some people just limit CX to, it's just about training, but it goes beyond training. It has to do with your processes, because you can train your people and then they are back into the field, they are back into the company to work, and processes are not well outlined. You don't have documentations, your SOP, everything is just frustrating them. Certainly they'll go back to point zero as if you've not trained them. That is why later you hear people saying, we train them, it doesn't work. You train them, you empower them to do the work. Are all your processes well outlined and fixed that they can be able to deliver as you want them to? CX is much more than training. The employee, the experience that your employee receive as part of CX. Your digital the digital experience that you provide to your customers is part of CX. So everything in the business from beginning to end. That's why CX is supposed to be seen as one of it. We have to just reposition our mindsets when it comes to CX and see it as part of that integral aspect of the business strategy, so that we'll be able to make CS what it's supposed to be. So in brief, I'll say CS is just more than somebody receiving complaints and answering the phone call and answering to inquiries. CX is about everybody. You can't work in silos if you want to really achieve customer centricity as a business. Everybody needs to be on board.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I like the point you made about the employee experience, because that is something that sometimes businesses don't consider, because they will frustrate the employees in order to give the customers the best experience. And in the long run, it just doesn't work out like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So can you just let us know about the customer experience landscape in Ghana? Is it something that businesses are adopting seriously, or where does it stand at the moment?
I'll say the landscape in Ghana, we are getting there. We are not there yet. Customer experience is really a new discipline to all of us. And I'll say I wouldn't be wrong to say even in Africa as a whole. So in Ghana, I wouldn't say we are there. We're getting there, but there's still much work to be done. So it's still the same understanding, trying to get people to really see the impact that customer experience have on their businesses. So the landscape in Ghana, we are not there yet, but we'll get there.
Yeah. No, actually, my question was more in line with the appreciation for what it is. I'll just use banks as an example. So at a certain point, you'll come up with so many products and you try to compete on different things. But at the end of the day, you realize that the best way to compete is customer experience. And so you may not know what it is, but at least at the back of your mind, you know that if we treat our customers well enough, at least we'll have a chance of retaining them. And so I don't know if that's happening in Ghana.
Yeah, I would say it is, because when it comes to customer experience in Ghana, as you mentioned, the financial industries, I would say it's one of the sector that, has started even employing or hiring those roles as head of CX or CX manager. You find it so common in the financial industry, maybe the banks, the insurance. It's not so common for you to find maybe the title customer experience and maybe manufacturing or the others. They may be doing the same role, but then the title may not necessarily be customer experience. So in Ghana, I would say it's so common, rather. You find it common in the financial sectors. But then I think another niche that has been left is the SME space. Everybody's mind, most of the times or most often, our attention is on the bigger organization or the corporate institution. But in Ghana, when it comes to our workforce, over 80% is made up of SMEs. And I feel it's that space that we need to also pay much attention to for us to guide and help or support this niche to be able to provide the best of experience that we also need, or that we also desire as a nation. Because once we empower all these people, we let them understand what CX is for their businesses. If their business improve, if their business is doing well, it's also an advantage to the country as well. So yes, as much as it's common in financial institutions, it's not so common, will I say, in SMEs and or smaller organizations or media organizations. Even in the larger institutions, we are now getting there. I wouldn't say we are really there. And even if we are there, or people who even have the positions, one thing we've also realized is CS has been driven from the top. So if the person sitting at the top, at the C level, which is the CEO, the CEO, or the CTO, doesn't really understand the impact of customer experience, sometimes they make it feel like it's just a nice to have. It doesn't really have any impact on their business. They don't really see the direct impact or the return on investment on the business. So much attention is not being paid there. But I feel if people who sit at the top will pay attention to customer experience, and really will change the narrative of their businesses.
Yeah, no, you make a very good point, and it's just one of those trainings that doesn't go in depth for people at the C-suite. So they get trainings in different areas, but the customer experience bit sometimes isn't properly investigated, and so at the end of the day,
Yeah.
they don't appreciate it the way you've said. So I wanted to get into what you just mentioned about the SMEs and the large corporates in terms of you as a consultant. So when you approach some of these businesses for consultancy, is it a case of they call you and say, we have this problem, can you fix it? Or do you come in and investigate to see what they can start with and how big the problem is? What is your approach to solving these problems?
Okay, so most often, as we've reduced CX to training, so the common request you would get is, oh, I want CS training for my people. That is how the request often comes in. But then with my approach, before I have even a training for you, I have what I call the brief documents for you to fill to understand that is it really training that you need. And that's where I go a step further to do that audit for you to realize that, yeah, training is good, but it's not the solution to everything. Because from the issues you've mentioned or outlined in this document, it goes beyond just training. And then that is when some of them appreciate that, oh, okay, what they are saying is true because we've experienced A, B, C, D. Okay, then what can we do apart from the training? Because majority of the time, the request I often receive, if they should come to me, is for training. Because as I said, CX is just saying as, train the people down there or train the frontliners. It's for them. But when you start interacting with the supervisor, when you start interacting with the unit head, that is when they realize that CX is much more than that. Sometimes in the corporate institutions, when you have that conversation with them, they want to go a step further to say, okay, then what can we do if some of these are some of the things you've outlined in terms of customers complaining because of the issues they've given to or they've raised. Then we go a step further sometimes to do the mystery shopping, the customer research insights to understand really what the issue is. And then we can tackle it bit by bit from there and also have a user research as well, user experience research to also understand some of these things, especially when they have their apps and their websites and or their digital products and they think, people are not subscribing to it. They don't understand why people are not subscribing to it and because it's a very good product or they have very good products in there or on their website, then we have to go that step further. But majority of the time, most of them come to you because, oh, I want you to just do training. So it's so you educate them or so you explain to them that the issues you are mentioning is not just about training, but then you have to look at this other leg of your CX or you have to look at this other issues in your CX or in your business, then they appreciate. Some of them will still say, okay, we hear you, you still do the training for us, we'll attend to the other ones as we go ahead. But some of them will take a break on the training for you to start from that aspect and then try to loop everybody in, then you lead to the training as well.
All right. And one thing I've noticed personally about the customer experience is there's quite a number of them. And I believe the number is growing and that you have associations and things like that. So what exactly is on the ground? Is the professionalism in terms of customer experience growing? Are there more and more experts certifying in these qualifications happening? And what sort of impact is that having on the organizations that you mentioned earlier, like the banks and things like that?
Yeah, so the awareness of customer experience, I'll say in Ghana is growing. So we currently have the Customer Experience Professional Ghana Association, of which I'm an executive as well. And we try to increase the awareness of CX and get professionals into the association as well. So we have a community of professionals, you have a community of, so as I said, with CX, it's not for just the CX professional because you have to work with everybody in an organization to be able to bring to bear that goal or to reach that goal. A CX practitioner in an organization is much more like, I want to get the right word to say. So a CS professional organization is it's like a catalyst. So you just have to speed up the rate of the reaction. So you have to co-create with everybody to be able to deliver the final result, which is the goal. So in our CS community, you have people, we have HR in there, we have people with digital background, technical background in IT, because all of them would want to appreciate and understand their role in their organization when we talk about CX. So people are now realizing that, though I'm just in IT, the work that I do impacts the person who is at the contact center, and at the end of the day, it will impact the customer. So I'll say Customer Experience Professional Ghana is really doing a great work and trying to build that network to get professionals on the in the community. So though we have a lot of CX professionals, we have other people who are just CX enthusiasts and would want to know more about CX, and we have other people who are trying to transition from customer service into experience to really have that broader view of what CX is. And so CXP Ghana is doing its best to try to raise and increase the awareness of CX in Ghana so that institutions will understand the benefits of CX to the organization.
Right. And obviously, with that comes a few challenges, most being cultural challenges. So as someone who's consulted with organizations, both big and small, what's the best way to overcome the cultural issues of, say, a new way of doing things and people don't want to do that, they don't really appreciate, or they revert back to type after a certain period of time? How best can organizations, because I know that's one big issue, especially if the recommendation is very different from what they're used to.
Exactly. And that is where the C-suite comes in. It has to be driven by them. Once it's driven by them, it trickles down to the least person. But when the C-suite person sitting up there doesn't appreciate and doesn't understand, it makes it very difficult. Because even if a first level supervisor understands and wants to change things or have things done differently, it becomes a bit of an issue or hassle, because the person at the top of you doesn't appreciate it or doesn't see it as something you need to have. So to really have that culture in an organization, it needs to be driven by the person at the top, the C-level person. So the person will understand that, look, it has an impact, and then get everybody to come along. Get every employee to understand their role in the business. Get everybody to understand how their role impacts each other if it's not done well. The person at the top is the one to get everybody along, to say, look, this is the new direction. This is what we want to do. This is where we want to go to. But if the person sitting at the top or the C-suite person doesn't appreciate it, driving CS culture becomes so difficult, because you do your little best in your little zone just for your department. But because you can't work in silo and you're also working with other departments, it feels like you take about 10 steps forward and then you have to come back again, because the other people you are working with do not understand and do not appreciate. Some people will even tell, CX, all you do is just to receive complaints. That is all they think CS is about. So it needs to be that general organizational change that every department, every department needs, or they need to understand that they can't work in silos. That somebody depends on them to have their job done, and they also depend on somebody to have their job done. And that is only when that C-suite person moves or drives that agenda, that you sit in the boardroom, CX needs to be discussed at the boardroom. But often it is not. You find a lot of maybe head of CX that are not on the board level, because they don't think their role is supposed to be there. They don't place them on the board level, that where business, or they don't place them at ESCO level where decisions are being taken, where business strategies are being taken. It's like a step below. We'll discuss and come and tell you. But you may not be able to explain it well like the CS professional who is there and overseeing or interacting with all these departments. So it's about time that our C-suites appreciate and understand that a lot depends on them. If we want to change the culture in our organization, then they need to start that drive and get everybody along.
I don't know if you have any examples, but on my side, oftentimes when I read about customer experience, especially from the Western part of the world, America and Europe, some of their concepts don't necessarily apply to us. And also we have our things that don't necessarily apply to them as far as CX is concerned. So just off the top of my head, one of those might be cultural or a language issue, in terms of when you have a service you're delivering, it's important to consider the culture of where you're delivering it, even if it's within the same country. we have different perceptions for different things, as well as the way we communicate the service delivery. So I don't know if off the top of your head, you also have something that comes to mind that is uniquely African or Ghanaian in terms of CX that maybe you need to consider.
Because I think I'm trying to remember some. Okay, I think I had a recent experience, for instance, with our car hailing industry, right? Just trying to, when you read about the car hailing industry in the Western world, I mean, I don't know about your place, but our place, we have the Uber, the Bolt, we have others as well. When the way they describe this and how we hear of ours here in Ghana, it's a bit different. The culture, when it comes to car hailing in Ghana, is another story altogether. But then it feels it feels like it's something that is so easy to provide you with that convenience that you want, should provide you with, the whole accessibility, comfort. But I can't say it's same here in our country. So it's a great idea. It's a great initiative. But here in our country, it doesn't work the way it's supposed to work.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And that raises the point of assuming you're implementing a CX program for an organization that is in many countries, there's some of these nuances that need to be put into consideration. Otherwise, at the end point, the customer experience will not be the same.
Exactly, you are right. As much as I would say in Africa or in Ghana, we are getting there with CX, I think as well we should adopt it to fit our culture, or we should adopt it to fit our environment. There are certain things, as you said earlier on, that may be used or may be common to the Western world that you can't really apply it here. So you need to not just pick it and say, oh, it needs to work here, we have to apply it here. No, but then how can we incorporate it in what we already know to get the best out of it? And how can it fit into our environment? It doesn't mean we should still stay at laggards and not improve. Yes, you want to improve. You want to change the narrative of your CX and your business. But then you need to analyze your environment as well and see which of these strategies can fit into your environment, so that it doesn't become like you invest all the money and then you don't see the return. CX is not supposed to create a loss for you. If CX is done very well, it's a two-edged sword. So the customer benefits from it, and as the customer benefits and has or receives the value, the customer speaks to others about you, comes back to deal with you, increases their lifetime value with you. At the end of the day, what happens to the business? You increase in your revenue as well. You stay in business. So when it's done well, it's a win-win game for both the customer and the business. So it's not that CS is supposed to just favor the customer, but CX is supposed to favor the customer, it's supposed to favor the employee, it's supposed to favor the business as well. When done well, you realize that everybody is happy.
Well, Amanda, I could talk to you for hours and hours about customer experience. It's something I'm very passionate about, but unfortunately, we'll have to call it a podcast today. However, before you leave, how can anyone who's watching this or listening to this get in touch with you and learn more about what you do?
Okay, so you can get in touch with me. Send me an email on amanda.akushie@nileconsult.com. That's amanda.akushie@nileconsult.com. Or you can reach me on LinkedIn. I'm active on LinkedIn. So Amanda Akushie, that's the name I use on LinkedIn. So it's easy for you to get me on LinkedIn or send me an email.
Right. And just before you go, can you just leave our listeners, especially those at the C-suite, with a piece of advice about CX, if any comes to mind?
Okay, the little I'll say is, when we reposition CS to be that strategic aspect of our business strategy, we are really going to see the value of it. We are going to see our businesses change for the better. So my plea to C-suiters, we need you to be part. We need you to drive the change. We need you to support us to be able to bring that change that we've always wanted. And we need them to be able to give the customer that positive experience. So to drive and to move or build a customer-centric organization, we we need the C-suite to help us channel that change. And certainly we will see the benefits of it to our business.
Well, Amanda, thank you once again, and I wish you all the very best. Hopefully we'll be in touch again for another episode recording. So thank you, Amanda.
Thank you very much, Dodi. I appreciate the opportunity too.